Ladies and gentlemen, this week we embark on the Global Week of Action Against Gun Violence. But it is the COVID-19 pandemic which is on many people's minds and on top of the agenda of politicians and decision makers. In just over a year, the COVID-19 pandemic has left the world unhinged, our lives turned upside down, a staggering and sobering 3.3 million people dead, and national capacities and resources stretched to breaking points. The ongoing health crisis has long spilled over into all areas of our everyday lives, with an often devastating social and economic impact. But efforts on arms control cannot be seen in isolation from our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me highlight this point with 3 examples. First, in March 2020, the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, issued an urgent appeal for a global ceasefire so that we could fight and defeat COVID-19 as our shared threat. Fast forward to May 2021. We see armed conflicts continuing to swell and new conflicts arising, devastating many of the same communities which are already hit hard by the pandemic. For the first time in 20 years, poverty has increased significantly, with the World Bank estimating that around 120 million people have been pushed into poverty last year as a result of the pandemic. Such dramatic impacts will contribute to further instability and insecurity as the underlying drivers of many of armed violence and conflict. Regulating and controlling small arms and their ammunition effectively is a prerequisite for social stability, sustainable development, and peaceful societies. And as long as the word shot is associated with weapons and not with vaccines, we have to double down our efforts to address armed violence. Second, weapons reside not only in conflict zones, but in many streets and homes across the world. Skyrocketing rates of intimate partner violence over the past year have created a horrifying shadow pandemic. Such violence is mainly perpetrated by men against women, and weapons are frequently implicated. Statistics essentially suggest that a weapon in the home increases significantly the likelihood of a lethal outcome for women. Regretfully, the pandemic has further exposed what was already lacking before: the integration of arms control into gender-based violence response mechanisms, in particular those preventing and responding to femicides and intimate partner violence. More than ever, it is our responsibility to call for solutions which disarm domestic violence. Third, the pandemic has shown us that weapons do not bring us closer to peace or human security. Yet military expenditures in 2020 reached around almost 2 trillion US dollars. That is approximately $252 per person in 1 year alone, and an increase of 2.6% in real terms from 2019. To reverse this trend once for all, we must confront decision makers with hard questions and an impetus to act. Whose security is protected by those weapons and military budgets? How can such spending be justified in light of a pandemic, which has further amplified the need to allocate adequate resources to health, social, and economic infrastructure and services worldwide? Let me conclude with this. Linking arms control to the COVID-19 response is vital to ensure the security and safety of everyone, not just a few. The pandemic has offered us a rare opportunity to redefine our priorities. I hope we can make our voices heard during this week of global action. Thank you.